What is up, guys? Today we're going to be working on a 97 Honda CRV, and today we're doing the upper control arms. We're doing both sides. One side is shot, but it's always recommended to do both at the same time, just as it goes for tie rods and ball joints and wheel bearings, things of that nature. You should do in pairs as well as the struts. So let's jump right into it, and we're going to get these control arms off. Alright guys, so to take off the upper control arm, there's 3 bolts. You have this 17mm bolt here that connects the ball joint to the knuckle, and then you have 2 up top. If you look up here, you have 1 there and 1 on the opposite side, but they are mounted on the inside here. So you have 1 on the side of the battery right there, and then you have 1 on the intake side. Well, the intake box is in the way, so you're gonna have to take off these 10mm bolts. I believe there's 1 down there. Nope, there is not. And I believe there's another one. No, there is not. I thought there was 1 on this side, but there is not that I can see. So yeah, just take off these 2 10mm bolts, and you should be able to pop this thing right out like so, and then take it right out. So let's do that now, since I already loosened up these 2 10mm bolts. This is just held on with a spring, it looks like, so you can just take that out. Oh yeah, there is another bolt. There's 1 right here, so when you go down there you might have to remove it. This one is broken, so that's why it came out so easily. So now that we have that put aside, you can see the bolt right there. So that's the bolt we'll have to gain access to remove it on the passenger side. And then we have the driver's side. So you have 1 bolt here, sits next to the motor mount as well as the cruise control. And then this is a little bit easier to get to on this side, so you don't have to remove the battery or anything. But you got, yeah, you can't see the bolt, but the bolt sits literally right behind this. Which is right here. So you'll remove that bolt, and then as you can see on this side, I already broke it loose. You can see the gap. That's how you know it's broken loose. Now you want to try and hit right here on the knuckle while this bolt is loosened. You don't want to take it off all the way if you're going to be using the same control arm, because you may damage the threads. But in my case, I broke the cotter pin, and I was able to get that out and get started on putting the new ones in. As you can see, I used some lubrication, or PB Blaster in my case, to break the corrosion and the, I guess you could say, the connection between the control arm and the knuckle loose, because sometimes they do kind of get seized in there. So spray some lubrication, that might make it easier for you, and then whack it with at least a 2.5 to 5 pound hammer, and that should break loose. So with that said, let's jump right into it, guys. Okay, so like I said, you're gonna have to whack the knuckle. You want to use at least, this one here is a 2.5 pound sledgehammer. So you want a sledgehammer, and you want to hit, there's like a little lump on the knuckle, or you want to hit here. But be warned, if you do hit here, there's a possibility of you splitting the bushing. Now, like I said, if you're not reusing it, who cares? But if you are taking it apart to change another component, let's say the axle, you're going to have to remove this, and you don't want to damage that bushing. So with that said, I'm replacing the whole control arm, so it doesn't matter for me. But again, if you're reusing it, you don't want to hit here. You might want to hit here. So we'll go ahead and we'll smack it a few times, and it should break loose. There we go. 2 times, and you can see it broke loose, and you're good to go. It may not be that easy on your car. It all depends on the maintenance that's been kept up on it. Looks like this arm was replaced at some point, but again, I'm changing both arms at the same time. That way I know the repair was done correctly, and I have both new upper control arms, and I'm good to go. Some of you may be asking, why is this cut? This is the ABS sensor. I'm assuming that I didn't have this vehicle for long, but the knuckle was replaced, and they put the EX model, I believe it is. I'm not sure what it is for the CRVs, but there's a base model and then a model with ABS. This particular vehicle, I believe, does not have ABS because it goes through the hole over here, which it has nothing in there. So with that said, let's jump right into it. We'll go ahead and we'll loosen this 17mm nut now. You can hold it down to relieve pressure, and that's another way you know that it's loose. So now you can take off that 17mm bolt. Boom. Now it's out. Okay, so now we have to gain access to these two bolts here, which will have to go inside the engine bay for that. Alright guys, so this one here, as well as the other one on the opposite side, is a 14mm, so we'll go ahead and we'll zip this one right off since we have enough space. This side, you're probably going to have to use a ratchet. There's your bolt. You might want to put anti-seize on these because these do tend to seize up. It looks like the last person provided anti-seize to this bolt, which is great. So we'll put that aside, and then we got to take off this battery, so we'll do that now. All right, so these are 10mm. We'll just zip those off for the battery terminals. There's one. Oh, and that one's already off. So you go ahead and disconnect it, remove the battery. If you have your battery bracket, those are 10mm as well. Just zip those off. Sometimes they break, sometimes they don't. Okay, so now that we have our battery out the way. Okay, so looking further into it, to gain access to that 14mm bolt, you're going to need to remove these bolts as well, which I believe are 12mm bolts. And there's two over here. If you look, there's two there. So you take off those two, and then you're going to have to take off that 10mm, and then that 10mm there, so you can gain access to the two bolts down below, because the fuse panel is going to be in the way, or the fuse box is going to be in the way. So let's go ahead and do that now. So now with the fuse box out of the way, just tuck that wire underneath this bracket that holds up the fuse box, and now you have access to those bolts down below. So let me remove those now, and I can show you what it looks like after. Okay, so once you have those 12mm bolts out, all four, at that point you can remove the battery tray. Just watch your wire. Come over. Got this rod. Just pull it out, and there it is. So now you have access to that 14mm bolt. So let's go ahead and remove that bolt. And then this control arm should come completely out. All right, so I'm just about to take out that bolt back there. You can see it's no longer threaded, and it's about to come out. So I just twist it to the left. It's not that. And there we have it. She is out. So let's do the other side. All right, so this is the driver's side. This is the main reason I'm replacing the upper control arms, and at no point should a ball joint be able to move this easily. So you can see, I can even use my pinky just to show you. It doesn't take a lot of strength to move this. So this moves very free. That is no good. I don't believe there's any grease in there anymore. But check this out. Let's see if I can get far back. So this actually moves in and out of the pocket of the ball joint on the inside. I can hear it. You know what? Let me show you exactly what it's like. I'm gonna cut the boot and I'll show you exactly what the issue is. And that was me smacking it with the hammer. I was not like that before, but I wish I could show you because it's hard to see. But this actually, you could hear it. It's just moving in the pocket, so it's probably worn out. And that's why I was hearing clunking every time I turned all the way to the left or to the right. I thought it was an axle at first, but it is definitely the ball joint. So let me cut this open and I'll show you exactly what I know is going on the interior of this ball joint on the inside. All right, guys, so there's your greased bushing. That sits right here. So I cut it. So this is exactly what you want to be wary about. So you can see it's all rusted, it's old, but that is not the issue. The issue is it wasn't greased. So now you have metal to metal contact, and then it just starts to eat at the metal on the inside. But if you take a look, check this out. See that whole ball? That's a lot of play. At some point, this upper control arm is going to give out, and that ball is going to pop right through. So look at that. You see all that play? Look at that. It goes all the way up. So eventually, this is just going to start going in all directions and eating at the metal until it pops out. You can see that would make it pop out. That's actually almost half of the ball sticking out there. So I'm glad I'm replacing it now, but that is no good. That is very scary. You don't want your ball joint to be like that. Let me show you a good ball joint. I mean, I know it's not perfect, but let's see. Yeah, see, this one takes more force to move. I'm applying pressure and this is not moving at all. It takes a lot of force to move this, and you can see this one was greased. You can just tell by the color and the bushings that this was replaced at some point. But yes, it should take a lot of force for you to move a ball joint. Here's another ball joint that I have. This is a lower ball joint. Not a cheap one, but a lower ball joint nonetheless. So the bushing should look good. The rubber should look good. You know, the threads look good. The collar should look good. And like I said, it should be really hard for you to move this. And this is brand new, but it's a cheap one, but it doesn't move. It takes a lot of force for you to move that ball joint. And that's the same concept with this here. And like I said on the other one, it shouldn't be able to pop in and out. It should be solid. So those are good ball joints. The bushing is a little old and dry rotted, but other than that, the ball joint itself was doing a pretty decent job. So let's jump right into it and finish up this driver's side, and I'll show you how to slap the new ones in. Okay, so again, this is the driver's side. You got the motor right here. So take that one out and then come to this side. And let's see. It's hard to see this one. Well, there's one on this side that you're going to see. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's that bolt there. Go ahead and take that out. So I'm going to take that out, and I'll show you how to install the new ones. All right, so safe to say things don't always go as planned. So I went to go ahead and loosen up the bolt. Check this out on the right-hand side. So it's spinning all together. So now I have an issue here where now I have to put either a socket or a wrench on there to hold it to crack that loose, and then put the nut back on and tighten it like so as well. Or the second option is to break it loose. You may need to take out the strut. You might be able to get a welding tool in there, but basically just tack weld that nut back on, and you should be good to go. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to put a wrench on one side and a ratchet on the other, and we'll break this loose. Okay, now we can compare old with new. They look the same. The left side has this little nub The passenger side does not. And as I state in all my other videos, avoid premature bushing wear. Do not fully tighten bushing until suspension is at ride height. In other words, until it's under a load. So you're going to tighten these bolts that go through the frame of the car once it's lowered. It's got the wheels back on, it's lowered. Then you go back into the cabin, and then you tighten the 2 bolts up here. Down here can be tightened, so you should be fine with that. But these 2 bushings over here should not be tightened, as this zip tie is over here and not over here. So let's jump right into it. Basically, we're going to hold this up. Inside here, we'll get 1 bolt in. As you can see, that nut is welded. The other one came loose. You can see the spot welds too. I'll show you. You can see this is the bolt. I believe it had 3 spot welds. 1, 2, 3. So now I just have to hold it with a 17mm, which is fine. So let me slap both sides in, and then we'll put it down, and then we'll tighten it up. Now that we have our bolts installed, the one down there and the one down there, be reminded that they are not fully tightened up. We have our ball joint bolt in. I still have to tighten that up, but you just want to make sure that these bolts over here aren't too tight just yet. Basically, you'll know how is before you put this bolt on, you'll notice that this is able to move freely up and down. If you put them too tight, it'll be locked in whatever position it's in. So if you tighten it now, it's going to be locked at this angle. When essentially when there is a load, this is going to come close to right here, and that's when you want to tighten them. So now that we have it installed, we'll install the other side, and then we'll lower the vehicle, and then we'll tighten these 2 bolts up here. So you can go ahead and tighten this bolt down and put your cotter pin in now. Okay, so we have the passenger side in, and this is what I mean by free. Is you can move it up and down where you want to. It's a little tight, but it's not too tight. So once you get it in the position and it's not tightened, go ahead and install the ball joint. Just gonna put the ball joint down, line it up with the knuckle, and it should fall into place. Once it falls into place, you just push it down a few times and then tighten it up. So I'll do that now. Okay, ball joint is tightened down, cotter pin is in. Now let's lower the vehicle, and we'll tighten up these 4 bolts that go to the upper control arm. 2 on the passenger, 2 on the driver. Alright guys, now that you have the vehicle lowered, you can see the position that the control arm is at, and that's the position it's going to be at when it's at its ride height. So at this point, you'll go ahead and fully tighten down all 4 bolts, 2 on the passenger side, 2 on the driver's side. Reinstall your fuse box, reinstall the bracket for your battery tray, put your battery back on, and you are good to go. Some may say you might need an alignment, but there's not much adjustment when it comes to these stock upper control arms. So go ahead and slap them in, and you should be good to go. If you feel like you do need an alignment, go ahead and take it to an alignment shop. So that is it for the video today on this 1997 Honda CRV. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks again for all the support and the people staying tuned in. Have a great day.